Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, the first in a two-part series. In this episode, we're going to talk about what you should consider when choosing an employer. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about what you should consider when choosing an employee. So in this episode, we're going to look at just 5 things that you should consider when choosing an employer. Now, we're going to take this from the perspective of when you're going to an interview. These are the kinds of things you should be asking about at interview, because it's difficult to get a perspective for these things without sitting in front of the person and asking them the questions. So, number 1, ask them what's important to them and just let them answer the question. They may answer from the perspective of them personally. They may answer the question from the perspective of the business. But it's important to know what's important to a prospective employer. Now, if the response comes back as that their money's important to them and profitability and getting coffees out on time and roasting a certain volume of coffee, making sure all the work gets done, well, that's one kind of employer. And another kind of employer is somebody who, cares about their people and is focused on happiness and focused on let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya, etc., etc. You get what I'm saying? They're two extremes of two different employers. You need to figure out where you sit on the spectrum of what you want out of an employer and what's important to them, and figure out whether they're the right employer for you. Now, the next question, and this will be more relevant than ever given that we are still deep in the throes of a pandemic and through a lot of social justice reform across the world. And that is, what do they do? How do they deal with challenging situations when they arise in the workplace? This is particularly important now, as I said, because of what's going on, but it's important at any point. Anytime you should know how your employer feels, how confident they feel about dealing with difficult subjects. By asking this question, you will either be seen as a troublemaker or as a professional. That unto itself will tell you if this is the right employer for you. Now, a lot of the time what you'll get back is confusion when you ask a question like this. Just clarify and say, look, we're in really uncertain times and that's not something that looks like it's going to change anytime soon. It's important to me to know that whoever I'm going to be working for has the leadership skills to deal with difficult situations. And so hearing how they respond to that is going to be important feedback for you, no matter what kind of an employer they are, knowing that they can deal with whatever's coming, because we ain't done yet, folks. It is important information for you. Number 3. Ask a potential future employer what the internal culture of the workplace is, or what they intend it to be if it's a cafe or roastery or whatever kind of a coffee-focused business that hasn't opened yet. Now, it's important to hear this from their mouth and then ask them, is the culture where you want it to be, or is it in a state of transition? And if it's not where you want it to be, where would you like it to be? So the question is not where do they want it to be. The question needs to start with, what is the culture now? Now, if a workplace has undergone a whole bunch of turmoil because there was an employee who may have been causing trouble or may have been over-sexualizing other co-workers in the workplace, and that employee has been removed, there will be some time necessary to bring the workplace to where they want it to be. That may be the case where you're looking at finding a job. And if that's the case, find out what the workplace culture is now and where the employer is hoping to get it to. A lot of this stuff can be really hard to hear but hearing it with an open mind and be willing to hear somebody's truth is just really, really important. Now, this is a gem of a question. But it's not a question you're going to be asking them. It's a question you're going to be asking yourself about them once the interview is done. Are they interested in what is important to you? Now, I want to say that again. Is the person that's interviewing you, the person who's your potential future employer, are they interested in what is important to you? Now, for some people, it's not going to matter. For some people that are looking for a job, I just want a job. I need to earn money. I want to go in there. I want to get my job done. I want to collect my paycheck. I want to go home and then I'm done. But if you're looking for a career working for someone who gives very many fucks about what's important to you, is where you want to land. Now, simply knowing what's important to you can help them look out for future opportunities of growth for you in their business. But if they're not interested and you're looking for a long-term career somewhere that you can land and stay for a few years, a key indicator that this is not the right workplace for you is if your potential future employer doesn't care what is important to you. Now, the last of the 5 things that we're going to talk about today that are important things for you to look for in a potential future employer. And remember, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just 5 of a very long list of things you should look for. How do they make decisions about the supply chain? Now, when you ask this question, you'll get a variety of different responses from people from a variety of different potential employers. Some people will be very confused why you're asking this question. Some will be confused by the question. Others will be able to answer you like that. And those who can answer you like that, some of them will sound like they have a very well rehearsed rehearsed answer, and others will just appear honest and genuine about it. With all of these things, I want you to ask yourself the question, do I believe what this person's telling me? Or have they just listened to what they think they should be responding in interviews with these questions, and they're feeding you what you want to hear? I've seen that happen far too many times. When you look for an employer, look for somebody who is in alignment with what you want to get out of your career, so that when you get there, you can be working in harmony to conspire to each other's success. If there's ever a relationship in business that should be conspiring to each other's success, it's that between the employer and the employee. Now, the heavy lifting for you to land in a job that you're happy at, 80% of that work is done by choosing the right job. If we as an industry put more effort into choosing employees that were a good fit for our business and choosing employers that were a good fit for our careers, we would start to navigate flow in our industry in a much more productive way. That's my belief anyway. I hope this has been helpful. The next episode, we're going to talk about how to choose the right employee for your business. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.